Hey YouTube, how's it going? Hey everybody, hope you guys are all doing great. So we're back with another car video today. As you guys know, I sold my 1964 Mercedes 220 SE back in October. So after that, I took a little bit a break from looking at cars, and so I'm finally back in the market searching to buy a car. So I'm kind of all over the place. After owning a classic Mercedes, I'm looking at classic Mercedes or older Mercedes, as well as a little bit of modern Mercedes. So I'm still kind of all over the place. I've seen a good number of cars. I've test drove them. I've talked to the owners, seen a lot of service records. I've run the Carfax on them. So I just wanted to go over what cars I've seen, test drove, and looked at the Carfax. Basically, I'm having a really hard time deciding on, which car to move forward with. But all of these cars that I looked at, they're definitely very well taken care of and actually been well maintained. So that's actually what made it hard for me to kind of, narrow down my list on, hey, I want this car or this one. So I actually have a long list, but it's just made it more difficult since all these cars are in such good condition. So I just wanted to make a video on this for all the car people out there. If you guys know anything about these cars, or if you've had one of these cars, please feel free to leave a comment about any feedback about these cars, or any or any information like, hey, you should stay away from this here or this make and model, or so any of that information would be really helpful. And yeah, let's get into it, guys. I hope you guys enjoy this video. So I wrote all the cars that I seen on a sticky note because, like I said, there's a long list. So the first car that I actually looked at was a 2003 500 SL. So this car had 90,000 miles, and the suspension was switched to coilovers. And this is actually being sold by a private person nearby, but he actually bought the car from an auction, and he said that, he would let the car go for 7,000, and there's no check engine light, none of that. And then he said he would smog it, and since it is a used dealer, like he has a license, a used dealership license, and the car was purchased from an auction, so he would basically let the car go for 7,000. It drove really beautifully, and I didn't find any problems with the car, and it started right up. And even so the owner actually explained that the previous owner like converted the suspension over to coilovers, to regular suspension, so that way, otherwise, if you're aware that these SLs, once if they have suspension problems, it actually can be very costly. So to avoid that, the previous owner just switched it out. So let's go ahead and move on to the next car. The next one is a 2005 S500. This one I looked at a used dealership near my house. So this car, they're asking 7,500, but I feel like if I took 7,000 cash in hand, just showed up, they might even let it go for 7,000, because I've been checking continuously on their ad and their price keeps on dropping. So I feel like, if I do actually seriously take the money, they might just do a 7K deal. So a little bit about this car. So the dealership actually showed me the Carfax on their end. So the car actually has no accidents on it. It has two owners. It's been really well maintained. And the car has, I believe it had 104,000 miles or 109,000 miles, which is still really low. And when I did test drive the car, I did, step on the gas pedal, make sure, I don't feel any vibration, no hesitation. So I did check all that. I eyeballed, under the hood, looked underneath the car just to see, is there any oil drips or anything like that. And I did make sure to press the button to raise the air suspension and, see if the car does, rise up and does come back down. So that was, after testing all that, I was pretty satisfied. The next one is a classic Mercedes. So in this one, we have a 1976. It's a 450 SLC. So I found out that, so I was looking at Mercedes, like the older ones. I was looking at like 450 SL, but I found out that if it has a C in the end, it means it's a four-seater. So, which I thought was really cool, if I have, friends in the back, or if me and my wife, and if my sister wants to sit in the back, it's, it definitely doesn't hurt to have a four-seater. So a little bit about this car. Four-seater, and the mileage on this car was just 116,000. The asking price for this car was 6,000. So me and the wife, we actually test drove this car. So the car, it was from the outside, it was really taken care of. Inside, it was, in pretty good shape. But what I noticed is once I started up the car, I felt like the engine was shaking while the car was warming up. And after we even let the car warm up, you could still feel like this vibration of like the engine was slightly shaking. And I did bring that up to the seller, but the seller said that, ever since they've had this car, that shaking has always been there. And I asked them, how long they've owned it, and they mentioned just about a year. And I asked them if they did any service within that year time frame they've owned it, and all they told me was just an oil change. That kind of just pushed me a step back. I was like, these cars do require, taking good care of them. And as this owner mentioned that, they haven't done much on this car and just an oil change. So that kind of pushed me away from that car. So I eliminated that car from my list. And yeah, and then we moved on to the next car, which is, so this one is a 2003 SL 500. So this one had 100 and around 145K on it. The owner of this car actually had a lot of paperwork for a lot of work done on the car. They for like 4,000 spent on the car most recent service. The owner did mention that the car does have a small oil leak. I did ask him, do you know where the leak is coming from? But the owner was not exactly aware where the oil leak is coming from. But I did appreciate that they were very honest about telling me about the oil leak as soon as as soon as we got to see the car. So that was really, I do like when somebody's honest and they actually tell all the flaws about the car versus me having to ask hey, hey, this doesn't work, oh, this doesn't work. So it just looks good on the owner's part that's selling the car. They were actually selling it for 6,500. So that's the deal that I asked them that, hey, could you do it for 6,500? So they said they could do it. So that's that car. Let's move on to the next one. The next one I looked at was a 1983 380SL. So this one was a one owner car, and they actually had the original pink slip, the first owner, the original pink slip. So I thought that was very cool. And actually the pink slip looked so much different from nowadays what we use is like the big pink slip. So this pink slip that they showed me, it looked like a small ID card from back in the day. And yeah, one owner car. It was exterior was red, the interior was black leather, beautiful car, very gorgeous. As soon as I saw the car, I kind of, my heart just skipped a beat, and I was like, damn, that car looks very beautiful. And especially, in photos, very nice. So this car, we agreed on, the owner would be able to do it for 7,000. So a coincidence that kind of worked in my favor was that, so there has been no rain, but all of a sudden, it decides to rain on the day that I'm supposed to go see this car. So I test drove this car in the rain, and I found out that the car has some spots where the water is leaking inside. So they had a soft top for the convertible and they had a hard top. So when I saw the car, it had a hard top on it, and the roof where the hard top connects, it had two spots where the water was dripping in, and I did mention to the owner. The owner did see the leaks himself, and he said that they did not want to fix that, and they were actually basically selling the car as is. So I love the car, and everything was really, really good. I love that the car was a one-owner car, a lot of work done on the car, and it was actually running very beautifully. But they did not want to, repair the leak for the water coming in. So that I called around when I got home, and I found out, it could cost me somewhere from, even couple of hundreds, or, even couple of thousands. So I don't think I'm ready to, put that much money into the car. I'm looking for a car that I can, buy and actually drive in the rain, be able to drive in the rain, be able to drive daily, and, not have to drop so much money right at the beginning. So I do understand, Mercedes, you want to maintain them, you want to take care of them, do service on time and all of that. But a car that I want to buy right now is buy a car but not have to drop money right at that moment as soon as I buy the car. So yes, so that was for 7,000, but that is now kind of out of my list. But if you guys know anything about it, please leave a comment in the video and definitely let me know. Oh, one more thing that I wanted to mention. So my Mercedes mechanic, the mechanic shop is very close to my house. So actually, I gave him a call after I saw this 1983 380SL, and I asked him that, hey, is this a good car? And if it's a one owner, it's been really well maintained. What do you think on it? What do you think about it? So the first question that the mechanic asked me is, has the timing chain, is it a dual timing chain? Has it been converted to a dual timing chain? And I told my mechanic, no, I didn't ask that. I didn't know about that. So my mechanic told me that, go ahead and give the owner a call and ask him if this car has been converted to a dual timing chain. So what I did is I reached out to the seller. I asked him if it was, and they said it wasn't. So now I found out that, so from that, basically, you should always ask questions. So from that, I learned that, anytime I'm looking at a older SL, I want to make sure that it is converted to a dual timing chain. Did do a little bit of research online, and I discovered that cars that were, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe the older SLs, anything from 1986, those cars actually have dual timing chains. Otherwise, if it's a single chain, it has a chance of, breaking and damaging the engine, which can be very costly. So that was one of the cars on my list. So let's move on to the next one. The next one, I saw this car at a used dealership nearby. So it is a 2003 CL500. The car has 135,000 miles. I test drove the car. Drove beautifully, and we actually went on the freeway. I drove for about maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, and the car drove really nice, very smooth. They said that they could do the car for 6,000 out the door. So the next car I have on my list is, so this one is another SL. So I forget the exact year, but this was it was somewhere in the 1970s, 450 SL. So the owner has actually done a lot of work on this car, so it was definitely very maintained. So there was one thing when I test drove the car that kind of, disappointed me and, kind of pushed me away from this car. So when I test drove the car, when I sat inside, so the shifter where you put the car into, drive, neutral, reverse, etc. So the owner said that, if I put it in drive, it's possible that the shifter will actually just slide and go to reverse or neutral. So they said that, I have to be careful and make sure that, it's actually in drive. I have to double check. And the owner said to even kind of check it while the car is being driven. So that kind of didn't seem very safe to me. And, that was just a turn off for me. So I told the owner, I really like the car. It's very beautiful. And, I can definitely see your car is very maintained based upon, looking at the condition of the car as well as the paperwork. But, this thing, it just kind of pushes me away a little bit, but I do appreciate I honestly do appreciate your time. So yeah, the owner was cool about that, and then that's how that ended. So the other car that I looked at was a 2002 CL500. This car, absolutely beautiful. And I believe the color, the exterior is, I would kind of describe it as like turquoise blue, and the interior is like beige. The car has 104,000 miles on it. A lot of service history on this car. A lot of maintenance done. So the history of this car is kind of, so the owner of the car has actually passed away. So the wife is selling the car. It was mentioned that, the car has nothing wrong with it, and they would let that car go for 5,000. So, which is a really good deal, especially for, a CL500 with only 104,000 miles, with, a lot of maintenance done on the car. So 5,000 was really cheap. So one thing kind of that I kind of, that kind of made me step back a little bit. So in the W220, in those cars, the S500s or the CL500s, so those ones, you want to look for a car that is 2003 and up. So 2003 to 2006 were much more solid versus, first few that came out like 2000, 2001, 2002. So those ones actually I wanted to kind of avoid, but after I saw this car, it was just way too beautiful, and it was really taken care of. So yeah, that was that. Okay, let's go ahead and move on to the next car. So the next car that I looked at was a 2007 CLS 550. Oh, I love the body style of this car. Absolutely find this car drop dead gorgeous. It's very sexy, very, very nice. So it gives you a feel of, owning a coupe, but still getting, 4 doors. So if you have more people that want to sit in the car, so they can, sit in the back. So the car doesn't have a lot of space, but hey, that's a compromise for the beauty as well as a coupe. That's a 4 door. So those cars are very nice. The owner said that he could do the car for 7,000 cash, and a lot of work done on this car. And the owner said that he's had this car about for around 5 years. He's had this car. Okay, let's move on to the next one. So now we have our W221, which is the 2008 S550. So this car I actually checked out is just 10 minutes away from my house. So this car actually has 160,000 miles on it, and the transmission was rebuilt around 125K, which is not too long ago. And surprisingly, when I pulled the Carfax on this, a lot of the service and the maintenance that was done on this car, it's done by the same mechanic where I usually take my Mercedes to. So I really, really trust this mechanic. So after I saw that the transmission was rebuilt by the same shop where I take my cars, that actually made me, feel much, much better about the transmission. So even though the mileage is a bit high on this car, like 160,000, so I did see, the transmission was rebuilt. A lot of service was done, as you guys can see. So I'm putting the Carfax on the screen. So a lot of service was done on this car. So I think I honestly am leaning towards this S-Class. So I want to something that I wanted to say is that a car that has high mileage isn't necessarily bad. It can just mean that a car that's if it's made it to that mileage, it's been taken care of. The owner's done a good job of maintaining the car. So versus sometimes you can go see a car that has less mileage but is beat up or not taken care of, versus a car with high mileage. It's been it's the owner has been good with maintenance on top of it, and the car is in mint condition or good condition. That one is for 7,000 as well, 7,000 cash. So the last car that I saw on my list is a 2004 S500. So this car has 112,000 miles. The owner that's selling it, they've had the car for about, I believe, 9 years. This car is also for 7,000. I test drove the car, and it drove really good. So some of the car did have some issues. One of them is the soft close door. It did not work for the driver's side. And then another thing that I noticed is the trunk. When you press the button to close the trunk, like it kind of just closes on itself. When I pressed the button, the trunk just came like. So it was way too fast, and it was close to hitting my head. So usually I've noticed they're supposed to, you press the button and it comes out like that. But this one just came like, so, which I thought, hey, that's not kind of safe. But overall, I love the condition of the car. And the owner mentioned that, the car's always been garaged, and, it's just been really well taken care of. So that actually definitely showed. What I really liked about this car was that it had black interior inside, and it did have the sports package. So that was a plus for me, and I did really, really like this car. And it does have low mileage. So compared to the other S500, the 2005 that I saw at the used dealership, so that car, even the year is better and lower mileage, which had 104,000 miles, I believe. But the color combination I did not really like. So it had silver exterior and then the interior was grayish. So that combination didn't really like suit me well. So when I saw this 2004 S500, the black interior with silver, so that made me very happy. So yeah, so these are all the cars that I have checked out. I've test drove them. I've looked at the Carfax on them, and I'm trying to make a decision on which car I should move forward to purchase. I would really, really appreciate, if you guys know any information about these cars, or if you have this car, or if you've owned this car before, and anything you could tell me about, anything to avoid, or go for this car. Yeah, please definitely leave a comment. I'd be very grateful for that information. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. God bless. Take care. Bye bye. Happy holidays. Bye bye.